Press Loft webinar. I'm John Gaylor, a CIPR Midlands committee member, so welcome to you all. And I'm joined by Nikki Snell, founder of Press Loft and a sponsor of the CIPR Midlands inaugural awards that we hosted 2 weeks ago. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you so much. The awards were brilliant as well. It was great to be part of it.
It was really good, wasn't it? Really, really good session and really good start to the awards kind of program that CIPR Midlands is embarking on. We're going to be getting ready for Christmas today, Nikki.
I know. I've had quite a lot of grief about this, but I promise you it's starting, and it is worth starting this early. I have got data to prove it as well.
I think I said to you or commented on your LinkedIn, it's never too early to get ready for Christmas.
No, it really isn't. Yeah.
But I guess first, I'm going to talk about posing questions and everything. But it'd be first, before we kind of kick off, do you want to give a bit of background to Press Loft?
Yeah. So I originally set up Press Loft going back 20 years now. So I used to have a PR agency called 0 to 1 PR. And we had loads of clients, and we spent most of our time, as I'm sure a lot of people do, getting in a lead from a journalist, curating images from correct brands that would fit the brief, sending them over with all the product information. And that was incredibly repetitive as a task. So writing and rewriting product information over again, curating what I thought the journalists would want rather than what they actually wanted to select themselves. And so I built a platform to host my clients' images that the journalists could access 24/7. And then that we could use to send out those images without rewriting caption info. And then I realized very quickly that other PR agencies might want to use it and other in-house teams. And then it's been a slow and steady growth. And now we look after about 900 brands around the world, which is
900 brands.
Yeah. So lots and lots of lovely brands that we work with, and obviously loads of agencies and the brands they represent as well.
Fantastic. That's really great. And all of them will be getting ready for Christmas, of course.
Yes. Well, we're chivvying them along now. So
a bit of, for everybody joining us, so a bit of information around questions and such. So we aim to run the webinars in a way that supports different communication and processing styles, so that everyone feels comfortable and able to make their best contribution. Please manage. I actually can only see me and myself.
It's a webinar format, I think.
I need to eliminate myself, but if you can manage your camera in the way that works best for you, so you're welcome to turn it off if that helps you stay engaged or manage your energy. You're very welcome to contribute via the chat, or you can raise your hand using the React button and you can join us in asking a question. Or there's a Q&A function where you can pose questions. And if you prefer to share your thoughts after the meeting, you can email midlands@cipr.co.uk, or indeed you can find Nikki on LinkedIn. But I guess we'll get to that in the roundup at the end. But I guess we want to get ready for Christmas now. So over to you, Nikki, and I'll be fascinated to hear a little bit more.
Thanks, John. I'll just share my screen now. So yes, we are talking Christmas and it is May. But the reason I think this is really useful is because every year, without fail, I see amazing PR teams miss lots of coverage opportunities through three main things. So first of all, it's bad timing. Second of all, it's bad images. And third, bad press releases. So today I'm going to cover all of those. So the Christmas timeline that journalists actually want to work to, what gets featured and what doesn't. And that's really important as well to know what not to do. And that's covering both imagery and press releases. And then I'll also give you some insight into a couple of trends that are shaping Christmas 26. And what we think the journalists are going to be covering heavily, and therefore is a great angle for you to pick up with your clients or your in-house teams. And we've got loads of data to back that up. So we are really fortunate at Press Loft that we churn out a huge amount of data on media activity and what they prefer and what they don't like. That's because we host and aggregate the product images of lots of brands, so about 800-900 brands at the moment, anyone that you can see here. These are managed by in-house teams, by agencies, and we also work with small brands and big brands and put them all on the same platform. Now, the core of our USP, if you like, is that we have a huge image library that journalists love to use. So we aggregate around about 190,000 product images, and we have a big search with loads of different filters like cutout, lifestyle, price point, category, that really is geared towards the way journalists need to search for items. And they use our search daily. We get around about, I think it's 140,000 downloads per month, not per month, per year. And I'll talk you through some of that data in a minute, but it just means we're constantly churning up data. And it also means that media don't need to email lots of different PR teams constantly and then wait for a response. They don't have that lag. They can get what they need from a huge range of brands in one place. And as a result, we get about 8,000 pieces of coverage a month in titles like these, both in the UK and abroad. So we're a really good tool if you want to get international PR without having to know all the journalists around the world as well. So we get 140,000 keyword searches by media each year. So they're typing in there and they're writing in what they're looking for at any one time. And we capture that data so we know what's trending. And then we see 170,000 of those images actually downloaded from the search as well. Ultimately, we track 90,000 pieces of coverage in the press each year. So all of that gives us tons of data. So what we talk about is actually based on real life data and lots of points. So the Christmas timeline that is ideal is starting in April, believe it or not. Our first Christmas download this year happened on the 6th of April, and we generally see it around April, May. The volume is really, really low for the number of media that are searching and downloading, but the media that are searching and downloading are really top tier. The editors and the stylists who are planning really intricately for palettes, themes, trends, and those big hero products and those big hero images that they want to place in their articles and anchor fuller articles and themes around. But don't worry, because I know most people aren't fully ready by April. And so what we've done is we've plotted all the Christmas product downloads by month here, both across 2024, which is the paler line, and 2025, which is obviously the darker one. And we can see that Christmas really starts in July in earnest, and there will be the long leads doing their research. And then it peaks in either September or October. So 2024 was September, slightly earlier, and October was the peak in 2025. And that's simply because there are more and more online articles being written with shorter lead times. So you can see here that if you're not ready by July, you're going to miss a ton of print coverage and the long leads. If you are ready by September, you're going to be getting those short leads. But what's quite interesting that we can see in the data is that each product category has its own peak based around the journalist lead time. So for example, hosting Christmas lunch articles, so getting the table ready, tablescaping, cutlery, crackers, anything to do with that, hosting people on Christmas Day. Those articles come out all the way through December. So we can see the July short leads peak here, and then we can see it peaks really late actually, and that the biggest time to get downloads for hosting is November. So that can inform when, as a PR team, you're going to be doing press releases around those more nuanced topics, just not Christmas as a whole. So we can see exactly the same data for crackers, again, to do with table hosting. So you've got crackers here in July, and in November, you can see it's gone much later. Whereas things like wreaths, so anything to do with decorating the home, so baubles, Christmas trees, advent calendars, they can't come out later than the start of December. So the lead time for them when journalists are researching is that bit earlier. So if you are doing anything around decorating the tree, decorating the home, you want to be doing press releases in July and then again in September. And we can see all these nuances on the site. And we give this to our clients as well, so they know exactly what to PR and when. And along the same sort of vein, I just crunched the numbers on the colors of products, and you can see that red products also surge, unsurprisingly, between July and November, because journalists are looking for red candles, red cushions, anything that to fill those mood board pages to make them look festive. So again, these nuances are all given to our clients to make a real difference in their coverage. So whether you're on Press Loft or not, this is the perfect Christmas timeline where you're not going to miss out on any coverage. So January, February, March, ideally you'll be preparing your images, then you'll be making them available to the press. If you're on Press Loft, put them on Press Loft, but if you're not, put them in a Google Drive or a Dropbox, so they're really accessible to those people who are searching very, very early. Then May, June, July, it's when you're preparing those long lead press releases to go out in July. And then in July, you're going to be it's just this surge of leads that come in. So we see downloads, you might get, leads from response source or something. You just need to be ready. You need to be ready with those images, make them available to the press, and then you're going to be getting every bit of coverage that you can get. Then September, October, November, we're looking at short lead press releases to be sent out. And then the final push is the last minute push. And that's generally around stocking fillers. It's around table hosting. It's around late delivery times, any vouchers that you might offer. These are really good topics to get that last bit of coverage at the end of the year. So my favorite topic is all about images, because on our platform, they make the biggest difference to the success of a client. And 60% of the images that you will be getting in gift guides will be cut out images on a pure white background, which is sometimes really reassuring to brands because they're the easiest to create. However, what we see time and time again is that people add their e-commerce cutout images and they're often on a coloured background. Now, they are brilliant for websites, but when it comes to PR and getting into the press, they need to be on a white background. You'll see a 70% increase in the amount of coverage and downloads that you're going to be getting if they are on a white background. So it's a really simple exercise for you to do. You can use various platforms like Canva to do that, but do it because otherwise the journalist has to do it, and they simply do not have time to do that, specifically around Christmas as well. I heard this, verbatim from a journalist, I think about 3 days ago, that I just don't have time to do that. And we have a massive client on with us, and they just don't have time to actually cut out their images for them. So do that for the journalist in advance. Another factor on cutout images is making sure you can eyeball them and you know what they are. So this is a really lovely example of a scarf. So on the left-hand side, it's folded up. You don't really know if it's a throw, if it's a blanket, or if it's a scarf. But the one on the right is clearly a scarf, so it's going to look lovely in a mood board and a roundup. So again, if you can advise a stylist, advise the brand that you're working with to do images that really jump out to the reader ultimately, then that's going to get you extra coverage as well. Now, another thing that we see, not too often, people don't do this too regularly, but it's worth understanding the logic behind it, that the journalists, when they're creating a page, they want the images all to look similar and have the same orientation, because it just leads to a beautiful page or a beautiful, outcome for that journalist and the aesthetic they're going for. So these two candles, one is really heavily angled overhead. That just won't go into any coverage. You want to be looking for direct or near direct front facing view, like the candle on the right hand side. So quick summary on the cutouts. They need to be really easy to understand visually. So you need to know what they are when you look at them. Front on view or nearly front on. Really good lighting. I didn't go into too much detail about that, but it's very obvious when a cutout image is not professionally lit. It makes a huge difference into their success. Again, the journalist isn't going to feature something which is badly lit and doesn't look professional. So just make sure you're investing in good quality photographers, and then a pure white background, as I've mentioned. So next up, we've got lifestyle images. So these look like these. They're in a realistic setting. They are beautifully styled, beautifully lit, professionally done. They're so good for brand aesthetic. So good for storytelling and getting an ethos across, but what's most important for PR is that journalists love these because they make their articles, their publications look really good and really professional, and they're very inspiring to the readers. So they tend to get much bigger placements when they're done well. So they'll get the banners and the hero shots in online articles, or they'll get a front cover or a double page spread in print, but only when they're done professionally again. So you need to be investing again in good quality styling, good quality photography. So I thought what I'd do is a teardown of the top performing lifestyle images that we saw on the site last year. The first one is this gorgeous one from Merry Merry with their Christmas 2025 collection. And this is quite clearly professionally shot and styled, and it's in a realistic setting. So that means it's just in a lounge that the reader can emulate, and they can get a sense of how they could do that in their own home. There's natural lighting there coming in through the window, and it was on trend. So that color palette was really big last year. Some of the velvets even in there, not about the product necessarily itself, but it fits the trend. And that's something that anyone can do. So there may be trends that we've got coming up that I'll mention, but you can weave them into your products and get extra coverage for those. A client that does it really well is called Desenio. So they do online prints, and they have brilliant styling that they bring in. The prints will be in the background, but the styling of the shot will be whatever's on trend. So certain color themes, flowers, and they get so much coverage for their prints as a result. And the next one is Lights for Fun. They're another really brilliant one for getting great coverage. Now, in this example, this was one of our most popular shots last year, and they've left space for copy at the top for editorial copy. So their styling team, their photography team know exactly what it takes to get into editorial. And that was why this one was so popular, because you can see there that the journalists can annotate it really nicely with products and with copy. Now, festive styling can really be used for any type of product. It doesn't have to be a gift. It doesn't have to be decor. It doesn't have to be Christmas related. And two examples here of some interiors clients that we have. So one is Annie Sloan, the paint brand. So their green paint was done up beautifully with a Christmas tree and some wrapped gifts. And those brown tiles from Original Style, again, not festive in themselves, but they became festive with that lovely styling. So I've actually got a PDF download of 101 props that you can use to make anything festive. So I'll make that available via a link at the end as well. Now, I touched on this briefly with the room set, but there's so many times that I've seen products be shot in fields and forests or beaches when they'll never be used in that context. And these never get good media pickup. So they're really good for brand aesthetic. So say if you've got a mattress in a field, you see that all the time, and that's good to say they're eco or they're environmental, but they will not get editorial coverage at all unless they're placed in a bedroom setting with some nice styling. So 2 examples here. One is a stock image of a mug. It's a festive mug, but it's been placed in the snow. Like, no one's going to actually feature that in the press. It does get across that it's Christmassy, but it won't get coverage. But the Emma Bridgewater one of our clients, they style everything beautifully, and this one is on clearly inside on a rug, on a tray, so you can get the sense of what they're trying to achieve there. Now, another question that we often get around lifestyle images is whether they should have people in them or no people. And when it comes to fashion, clearly, for that same understanding of how something can be used in real life, you need model shots. They will perform very, very well for any fashion company. And same with jewelry, things on earrings, on necklaces, they do really well. When it comes to pet products, definitely have pets in them. They perform brilliantly. They get really good media pickup. But when it comes to interiors, and particularly gifting and Christmas gifts, having people in them doesn't help. They don't tend to get many downloads. It's not really a particular reason. I mean, in Germany, actually, they do get good downloads, but in the UK, it seems to be a general aesthetic preference that you don't have people in those gift guides. So just make sure you're making them available with cutouts and then in just a generic sort of festive lifestyle situation. And then another one I just wanted to bring up, just as a side really, is that if you are lucky enough to be doing a nice brand collaboration this year, so for example, this one's Merry Merry with Liberty, this image performs so well because of this collaboration. It seems to be a huge trend right now for both brands to be doing it, but also journalists wanting to feature it. So if you are working with a brand that's doing a collaboration, obviously you're going to be promoting it, do press releases, get that lifestyle photography really performing. So someone else, we worked with another brand called Polani Perez, and they did a Liberty collab last year and got about 180 pieces of coverage on the site from that collaboration alone. So they're just firing out. So, just bear that in mind that you'll do really well for them. So now to do with press releases, so the other angle of the PR for products. So I had a podcast last year. I did a series where I interviewed lots of journalists, and so I asked each one of them how many press releases you get each day, and they said from 200 to 300 up to 800 press releases a day. So we all know how competitive it is, but they are absolutely inundated. And so to get the opens, they've all said that clarity and relevance is absolutely vital. And the way you make it relevant is by using hooks and themes and trends that are relevant to what they will be working on right there. So gift guides, fashion trends, entertaining and hosting. But what's important about all these hooks and angles is that you just it's really obvious, but use them in the subject heading. So the journalist knows exactly what is coming up. So first thing, don't do plays on words. They just don't work. So things like all that glitters this Christmas. No one knows if it's a skirt or a bauble. So a fashion journalist is not going to bother spending time opening it, crawling through it and finding out what it is just to work out that it's a bauble and she's covering skirts. They just don't have time. Similarly, gifts for festive cheer. We wouldn't know if it's a beer gift guide or if it's a cocktail glass. Those little things, they might sound daft. And we all love a play on words, but when it comes to PR, they do not work on press releases. So I've done a sort of formula format thing that I really, really advise clients to do. First of all, if it's new and it's a new launch, mention it. Journalists will always feature something that's new over something that's old. It's their job to find the news. So what's new? So mention new or launch in the title only if it is. The product type is really important so they can eyeball it and know exactly what's in there. And again, really obvious, but if it's a Christmas related press release, make sure the word Christmas is in there. They'll store these press releases, they'll do keyword searches, they'll go back over them, they use it as a storage system. So Christmas, ideally festive if not, but Christmas is the main one that they'll be searching for. And then then the segment. So that's like the gift guide segment. So gifts for her, or the trend, which we'll mention, or the theme that they might be working on. So like new candles for Christmas entertaining tells that journalist exactly what it is. So they're going to open it. And new earrings for Christmas parties, or notebooks for Christmas gifts for teens. Those kind of things really, really work well. And then in terms of the length, we always say keep it under 8 words. You can have a little bit more if you're a large high street brand, because it's really important that you include your name. Large high street brands will get an extra pull, they'll get more clicks. So, celebrate that, get that into the title. But if you're a smaller brand, just save the word count and keep it sharper and to the point so the journalist knows what's in there. And then again, we've got another couple of PDF downloads to help. So we've got that title generator and a load of different examples of really strong press release titles that you can use for Christmas. And then also we've done a roundup of about 100 different types of gift guide segments that we see journalists covering time and time again. These can all make really good hooks and angles to increase your open and therefore your coverage rate at Christmas. And then the last little bit is quite a short webinar, but I'm going to be covering Christmas trends. So every year on Press Loft, we forecast what the journalists will be covering later that year. So we do it around May, June. We're releasing it next week on the site in a PDF format, and these make really good Christmas hooks. So we do external research, we use our data as well, and we combine them for decor, fashion and gifting. So I've got a couple here which I think will be big hitters next year, but we've got an extended version of this next week. If anyone wants to go, it's on the site, so I'll just give you that URL later. So the first one is brooches. So we saw individual brooches coming back a little bit in the press last year, but now we're seeing this really big resurgence of grouping brooches together. So if you work with someone who does do brooches, just get them photographed in a collection together. And these can go even on homeware. So it can be a really nice angle for you to just get extra coverage for that kind of jewelry related clients that you might be working with. And they can be vintage or pre-loved, but obviously most of us will be working with new products. Then the other one is sober, curious Christmas. So there's so much about, giving up alcohol and what the alternative is. So anything about mocktails, about teas, even a movement for non-drinks focused get-togethers. So craft ideas and mindful retreats and, self-care evenings as well. Those kind of things will make really good press release titles if you're working for any drinks brands particularly. And you can obviously share those mocktail recipes as well as an angle. And then one of our decor themes next for this coming Christmas is Into the Woods. So this really loose, organic, natural feel with bark and beautiful weeds. It's much less polished this year, we're finding. So as I mentioned earlier, if you sell candles or if you're doing furniture or, baubles, you can style them up in this way. And it really does get you more coverage if you think about the styling ahead of the game and get your photography working in sync with what the journalists will be working on. So just some examples there. Like I said, that will be going live on the site, and we'll be doing a recording, but you can also download the report and it will be somewhere on pressloft.com/app/videos. Everyone can also sign up. We do loads and loads of trend alerts, and these are a really good hook and angle for your press releases and the work that you're doing. And you can sign up for those for free as well on the site on our trends page there. And what's next? So hopefully I haven't freaked everyone out, and then maybe you are ready already. But ideally, just get your images ready. The earlier, the better. And I would say July is the main deadline for long leads, September for short leads. And then start drafting those press releases, but you don't need to worry about sending those out until July generally, unless you get your leads in. And then lastly, if anyone isn't on Press Loft already, you can have a free 60-day trial, be it agency with a bunch of clients or in-house. Please do come and try us out. So hopefully that was useful, and I'd love to hear any questions.
Thank you very much. Oh, we've got a
question about spas.
We've got a question, I think. Yeah. A question about spas. Can you see that? So I'll read it out. I guess if you go ahead.
Okay. So I represent a spa. Should I be positioning us with journalists now for gifting experiences and gift guides? And for imagery, we of course use images of our spa. I'm always unsure whether we should do people or no people in pictures. So thank you. That's really interesting. So if it's a gift experience, what you can also do is do a single shot of the gift voucher, ideally in a box. That can work really well for those sort of roundups where a lifestyle shot wouldn't work. So I think, and in spa experiences, as it's an experience, you can absolutely supplement those images with someone with people in them. I think that that's a very natural fit, a bit like the fashion one. So I would have them all if you can. And then in terms of the going into gift guides, I mean, if you have the budget with either if you're in-house, do some gift days, some awareness days and press events ideally with them. And you'd need to do them earlier rather than later. And if not, yes, press releases from July and then September would be really great. Lucy, I work for some destinations, lots of which have Santa grottos. We have lots of brilliant pics of the Christmas experience, but it's not really product led. So we haven't explored Press Loft before, but should be. Yeah, definitely give it a trial. Give it a trial from July. Because then at least you've got some free coverage. You're going to be focusing more around the press releases over the imagery, but the imagery will still have a great place. We have all sorts of regional press using us, as well as the press association. So definitely worth a shot, and I'll keep an eye out because I think it's not something that we do a lot of, and it'd be great to see if it works, and it's free. So hopefully you'll get some freebies from it. Anyone else got any imagery questions, press release questions, Christmas questions?
I've got a question about, I was interested in terms of the subject line format that you recommended, and I just wondered, have you considered that for AI search as well? And I guess there's a secondary part to that, which is about AI imagery, which I'll ask in a moment. But
so in terms of AI search, I can't really comment on that one in terms of externally to Press Loft, the end results of the press coverage, because the journalists often don't use those press release titles directly. Right. That would be up to their own editorial team and how they use it. So that's probably not something I would have a great mind on. But in terms of imagery, I really do. It's been so interesting this past 12 months. So I've had some very stern editors get in touch saying some clients have added AI generated imagery and they are really unhappy about it. I've had others be absolutely fine with AI imagery and they will use it, much less so though. But I think the important thing about AI imagery is that there's lots of different facets to AI imagery. So you've got one, which is the fully rendered images. They don't tend to be liked at all. And in fact, they're real strong. Some publication houses absolutely are not allowed to use these images, and one of them did and didn't realize it was AI and then got into big trouble. That's really interesting. So there's a big trust thing. So if you are doing fully rendered images, I would strongly advise you to make them aware that they are fully AI, otherwise you're going to really annoy some of these journalists. So that's
declare it.
Declare it. Absolutely declare it. Yeah, it's the right thing to do. Especially because, like I said, they can get in big trouble. They're not allowed to use it as a policy. Now, those policies are changing and flexing now as we're getting more and more advanced, and as AI imagery is getting more advanced, actually. But at the moment, I would say, well, always declare it, but and ideally have non-AI available, because a lot of journalists will not use them. So that's that side. But then there's also the ones where it's the background of the image, which is AI. And that they do perform quite well, because you can take a shot of an earring, say, remove the background, replace with a white background.
Well, I was going to say that about, I was going to say that and ask that question about the white background, because presumably you could use AI to help you sort out those images, because that's quite an amazing stat, isn't it? 70% increase in downloads just by having a white background.
It's incredible, the difference it makes. And you can be a massive brand, you can be the biggest brand in the UK, and that still applies to you. So it's really important. And yes, they can be done with AI, and these are fine. There's just, at the moment, it's the fully rendered ones which are not liked. And then on Press Loft, we use AI upscaling, because as PRs, it is such a pain when you get an image which is too small to use. But actually, AI has now allowed us to upscale them to high res from low res, just from a product feed. And all we do is use a tool to add in pixels, and they turn from low res to high res. So we're not changing the image in any way in the essence of what it is, but we're just making it more crisp. And there's loads of functionalities that we're using with AI. So, and these do perform really well. So I think there's a lot of nuances in it at the moment, but I would say fully rendered is the one to miss.
Cool. So, we've got another question. Are there any quirks for Christmas PR in the children's toy market, and is there a value of including models in photography, or is it first and foremost cutouts?
Yeah, so it's both for the toy market particularly. So we also work with fashion, so I'll deal with both of those. So the toy market, cutouts and no kids in them, I would say. On the whole, they don't tend to get much pickup. But then when it comes to fashion, the kids' fashion model shots are really important. They do perform very well, along with the cutouts of the fashion. So it just depends on the product type. But toys, I would say no. Well, we can see from the stats that no people in them performs much better.
Okay. And we've got Isabella Briscoe's asked, do you have any tips for hospitality venues, restaurants for Christmas PR? We're less selling product and are more experience based. But the food is the key focus. Standing out from the crowd is the toughest part.
I'm going to hold my hands up, Isabella. I'm not experienced in hospitality and restaurant PR. It's going to be a local PR, and I think I wouldn't like to give you advice that I'm not basing on good data. So sorry about that one. I can't answer that one. Anyone else got any questions?
So somebody said hadn't seen Press Loft before, just had a quick peek, and it's a great platform. There you go. I had a question about, so I was really interested to see that Christmas actually starts in April.
Yeah.
So we're 1 month late already. I mean, not to worry everybody, but that you mentioned the top tier titles will start talking about Christmas, and I just wondered what are the examples of the top tier titles. Is it the Mail Online and etc.?
Everyone, not everyone. The monthlies, particularly in print. So you're looking at places like Good Housekeeping have downloaded really early before. Simply Christmas has downloaded early before. I think Ideal Home was one of them. I think Simply Christmas was the very first one that we had this year, which would make sense. And then think it was Ideal Home after that's already been doing research. Yeah, often they're presenting to the panel, they're presenting to their whole editorial team, and they're looking for themes, and they're looking for those hero shots to anchor on. So really interesting.
There's a good question here about, my light's just gone up. I need to move around more, clearly. But a good question about press releases are coming in. But also, I just wanted to say that stat that you had, journalists are getting 800 press releases per day.
Yeah. Honestly, it's the biggest editors are getting 800 press releases a day. It floored me. I had no idea. One of the journalists I interviewed years ago, I think she's from the Metro, and she said she was getting 800 a day. I don't know how you manage that.
No.
Searching, deleting.
And there's a question here about press releases. So just wondering what must-haves to include. Any format tips, please?
Yeah, I think the main thing with press releases is that hook and the angle for the subject heading, and then retaining that through. So keeping it on theme with gifts for her or gifts for him, or whatever the launch is or the collaboration is. But it's really obvious, but more images will always lead to more coverage. And I think remembering that one journalist might want lifestyle, one journalist might want cutout, one might want a lifestyle within a certain frame, one actually might want a fashion shot with imagery. And if you provide an essence of all of that within the press release, you're going to be more likely to hit the spot with one of them. Assuming that you're sending blanket press releases out to your list, to your curated list, you're going to send the same press release out. Having a variety of images is absolutely essential, and the more the better almost. Then it's just the basics. You've got to have your pricing. You've got to ideally link out to your images as well, wherever they are. I'm not just harping on about Press Loft. Google Drive or a Dropbox. Just get them to them so they can get them without asking you. That makes a huge difference. And then anything that they're going to need to write that article, you do not need to write the article for them though. That's in terms of product press releases. If they are more technical, then having a contact for them to then liaise with, which will probably be you, about more technical things that you can then pass on to the PR team, to the internal team. Just generally, product information, title, the basics, pricing, dimensions if you have them, if you need them, age ranges, Bernie, if you're working with toys as well, are really important. And then availability, stockists. So if you are working with a brand rather than the final stockist, then having somewhere on site that is has a stockist list is really important. Sometimes we have clients that own a brand that sell through stockists, and they pick one that they use as their anchor to then promote that's available nationally. That can work really well, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying that this is an actual instance that I've had, but say you sell a brand of planters and they sell on Amazon, then you can give Amazon as the main stockist, or you can give stockist lists of local providers, and local ones are brilliant for local press, obviously, as well. That can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. You ran this webinar yourself yesterday. And you had a question which might actually segue into what Bernie was asking as well. So are the press looking for kids' gifts by age or by price point generally?
Yeah, both. Generally they're quite broad, the age range for gifts. So it's gifts for babies, gifts for toddlers, gifts for teens. Sometimes tweens was big a few years ago, but it's generally teens and maybe uni, but that's probably a little bit niche. So those three broad age gaps are really good, and you can do one press release around gift, toys by age. Stocking fillers are really good across the board. Sort of under £10 is a really difficult price point to get something good for. So if you have any decent stocking fillers at a good price point, make sure the word stocking fillers is in there, because they're notoriously hard to find. And then in terms of the other one, age range, what was the other one for kids? Age range and
a price point.
Price point, yeah. So price point's more of a generic theme. So you've got under £10, under 50, under 100, luxury. They tend to be the broad ranges that we see most of all. So they can also work for any type of brand.
Fantastic. Any more questions from anybody else? I think this has been truly fascinating. Some really great tips there. I wrote a ton of stuff down just in terms of what was important. I mean, just simple stuff like, making stuff easily identifiable.
Yeah.
A scarf is a scarf as opposed to a throw.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
That bed linen has gone for that. Bed linen, bizarrely, is the hardest thing to get coverage for because so often the photography is flat and you don't really know what it is. So yeah, I do feel sorry for people who work for bed linen unless they're beautifully photographed.
Yeah, leave space for copy in the image as well. I think that's a great tip.
But a good styling team and a good photographer will know that. If they're versed in producing PR photography, they will absolutely know those things. So that's why it's worth investing in. Actually, there's someone I know Emma Morton Turner runs a company called InsideStylists.com. Really good as a resource if you're looking for photographers and stylists. And she personally will recommend the right people for you as well. So I really, bookmark that one because she's brilliant.
Great stuff. There's another question. If not using the platform like Press Loft, is attaching photos a no? Sounds like it's best to link out to somewhere. I could answer this as well, but I'm going to let No. It's yours. No, this is your web.
I would say it is a no, but people's email inboxes aren't as saturated as they used to be. It used to be that your inbox was full and you couldn't get you couldn't get access to images. So it's not best practice, and the main thing is that a Google Drive or a Dropbox or something like that, actually WeTransfer is a no. Journalists do not like WeTransfer because of the expiry date. So if you are going to use WeTransfer, be careful and make sure there is no expiry time on it. But it's best to link to a Google Drive, and what you can do then is have all the images so they can look through folders and find whatever else they need. That they're only ever working on one article, but they might be working on 3 articles in that day, and then they'll come back to you as a resource.
Yeah. Or as well, think GEO and SEO and get all your. I mean, if they're not sitting in Press Loft, get them sitting on your media newsroom or somewhere where they're going to get picked up for that period of time. So that's the other thing. Great, some great questions. Where can people find out more at Press Loft, Nikki? And you had said that was 101 props to make an image look festive.
Yes. So if you go to our videos page on Press Loft, so pressloft.com/app/videos, the very first video on there is the one I recorded yesterday, which is this one that I've just done now. And underneath there's all those freebies that you can get anytime. And then again on pressloft.com, you can very easily sign up for a free trial as and when you want, or you have the right clients to sign up for.
Fantastic. I feel very ready for Christmas.
Good. Enjoy. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, great to have you. And thank you everybody for joining us. Have a good rest of the day.